Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Captain's Table. I'm your host, Captain B-Nard, and topic of discussion today is going to be a reaction to Pokemon Sword and Shield, and here to discuss that with me, making his debut on the Captain's Table, a friend of mine and fellow YouTuber who's no stranger to the channel. We've done a lot of videos together in the past, both battles and Pokemon Top 10s. We have from the YouTube channel Crash Love Gaming, Crash Love 37 himself. Welcome to the Captain's Table.
What's up, Captain?
Nothing much, man. Just primed and ready to talk about some Pokemon Sword and Shield, or as I call it, Pokemon Shield and Shield by my lovely thumbnail. But always got to break out the low quality graphics here. But anyway, so we're going to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is a little under 2 months post-release at this point. We're going to talk in the beginning about the Pokedex, obviously the bombshells that were dropped with that, the new Pokemon introduced, and kind of how we felt about all that. And then we're going to go into the gameplay itself with the story mode and new features and features that were left out, anything positive or negative that we took away from the game as a whole. And then at the end, we'll probably just throw like a grade at the game, I would say, as to our overall feeling about it. So, you have anything else you want to add there, Crash?
No, sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna get started then. So, the big news and the big buzz surrounding this game, as I'm sure all of you remember, leading into this game, was the fact that for the first time ever in a Pokemon game, we were not going to be able to attain every Pokemon. So, the Galar Pokedex, as we would come to find out, is a mere 400 Pokemon, as opposed to the, I believe, 890 Pokemon we now have total in the game. So this Pokedex is less than half of all Pokemon, which obviously created a lot of negative buzz in the world of Pokemon prior to the game's release. Myself included, a lot of fans were very disappointed about this. And, upon reflection, I am still pretty disappointed about this. Although I will say, having played the game, I'm not as disappointed about it as I was, pre-game. Because the game did play in a very fun way, and although not every decision about which Pokemon stayed and which Pokemon went were the right ones, in my opinion, I felt that overall they did a pretty good job of making a well-rounded dex. But I'm interested to hear how you feel about that, Crash.
Yeah, so I wasn't super upset when I heard about that because how many Pokemon did you say we have? Like
800
900?
and well, we had 808, I believe, prior to Gen 8, and now we have 890 post Gen 8. So that's a lot of fucking Pokemon. Okay,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, way too much. Like I can't even catch like 251
yeah,
on Gold and Silver. Like how am I gonna do all this, right?
yeah,
So it did make me feel like I would actually be able to complete the Pokedex this time. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And um, I know like a lot of them that were taken out, they kind of hurt, especially because like a lot of like
Gen
Gen
1.
1, Gen 2,
Yep.
yeah, they're taking out like all of the starters except for Charmander for some reason.
Yeah, we'll get to
Like,
that in a second when we talk
yeah,
about the
yeah,
new
we'll talk about that
floors.
later. But
But
but yeah, I mean honestly, it's not that bad. I kind of saw this as kind of like a really soft reboot.
mhm.
And we'll talk about the mechanics later on too. But you know, kind of like resetting the decks a little bit,
Yeah.
not having that massive, unobtainable amount of Pokemon.
Yeah,
It feels like you can actually do it this time.
absolutely. And let me just say, I am actually, despite me not being a fan of this, I am actually not opposed to the idea of them limiting the Pokédex because there were a lot of problematic things, at least for me being a big competitive battler. From a competitive standpoint, I was actually, in a sense, kind of in favor of the limitation of the decks because there's a lot of problematic stuff that we get on the competitive scene that could use to be eliminated that would actually make the game play much better and more, fair and balanced, quote unquote. So on the surface, I'm not opposed to the idea, but the two big issues I take with the cut to the Pokedex is number one, quality control, obviously. So which Pokemon make the cut and which Pokemon don't. And then number two, of course, is overall number. So prior to the release of Sword and Shield, I was kind of anticipating that the Galar Dex would have between 400 and 600 Pokemon, and unfortunately, we just kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel of that number of my estimate, and that kind of disappointed me because I was really hoping that at the bare minimum we would get at least half of all Pokemon in this Pokedex, and we didn't even get that. So this is a massive, massive cut. I think I would have actually been happy if we would have gotten to like even 500, I think, or maybe like a little more than that. Like maybe even 600 would have been asking too much, but I feel like 400 is just too low. Now, granted, I'm sure you know that, due to our old friends, the data miners, that there are, there is, I should say, data for a lot of Pokemon, a lot of other Pokemon that are not in the Galar Dex, apparently, in the game. They are just not obtainable at this point. So who knows, what exactly is going to happen with that. I guess there was data for Bulbasaur and Squirtle lines from Gen 1, and also the Gen 7 starter lines of Incineroar, Primarina, and Decidueye, as well as the Solgaleo, Lunella lines from Gen 7 as well, and some other random stuff. I believe the Swords of Justice actually too, because get it, it's Pokemon Sword and Shield, ha
Hmm.
ha ha. But yeah, some other random stuff like that. So, I mean, it remains to be seen how exactly that's going to work, um, but yeah, the overall number was an issue for me, I would say. The other big issue I have is going to be, well, maybe I shouldn't even say big issue, but issue in general is going to be the quality control issue. And like you mentioned, I want to leap off of, we lost a lot of Pokemon that hurt in this Pokedex, and the number one. Probably tied for number one, I would say. The two that really hurt the most for me were the Alakazam line and the Scissor line, because it's like, come on, you're telling me I've been playing this Pokemon game for over 20 years, and you're telling me that I can't get an Alakazam in this game? Like, what the fuck,
Yeah, yeah, like that was one of the big ones for me. Was Venusaur. I've been using Venusaur on my competitive team since Gen 5,
Hmm.
and I mean they did get rid of Mega Evolution, so I guess it's okay
It wouldn't have been as
because
good anyway. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but like Dragonite,
Oh yeah,
um,
Dragonite was a big one too. Yeah, that
yeah,
really
Scyther
stung.
and Scissor.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Scissor's like one of my favorite Pokemon, so that one really hurt me. I was like, you're telling me that I can catch a freaking Crustle, but I can't catch a Scissor. Like,
Right.
okay, like
Yeah,
what the heck?
like my favorite Pokemon, Psyduck. He's not in there.
Yeah, yeah. But there's I mean, there's a laundry list of Pokemon we could go, on and on. Another one that
Hmm.
actually burns me, not specifically because I like this line, but because they added a line that was so inferior, and we talked about this in the past in our Pokemon Top 10 video, is that they cut the Zubat line, but they kept the Swoobat line.
Yes, I don't know why. Like Swoobat is so dumb, and I hate it so much.
Actually, it's funny. I was planning on bringing this up later, but I'll bring it up now. If you remember back to our top 10 worst Gen 5 Pokemon designs,
Hmm.
7 out of 10 of those evolutionary lines made it into this game. Okay,
Jesus.
7 out of 10. That sucks, honestly. Like, we kept the ice cream cones, we kept the gears, we kept the pile of trash. For God's sakes, I mean, come on, what is that? Like, it's. But you can't give me Scissor, and you can't give me Alakazam, but you can give me a literal pile of trash. Okay, we can't. We don't, I don't want to
Right.
harp on it too
Like
much, but
yeah. Like one thing I was thinking of, and like you would probably know this better than me because I haven't even dabbled into competitive breeding or anything yet. I
mhm.
haven't looked at anything, nothing like that. But um, if you think like maybe they did this as a way to kind of balance it out a bit more for like what you would use on a competitive team, but at the same time, it's like you're not going to use Crustle.
Well, some people do actually. I mean, I'm not gonna. I can tell you that for sure because it's yeah, it's I hate it. It's a really stupid Pokemon in my opinion,
Yeah.
but some people use it, but yeah, I 100% agree with you though in the sense that yes, a huge reason behind okay, let me say this. Let me start at the beginning. So initially, um, when the news was broke, which was actually well before, it was months and months before the release of Sword and Shield. It was back like either in the maybe early summer or somewhere around that point, I believe. Maybe it was midsummer. I don't remember, but it was quite some time before the game released that we actually got the news that we were not going to be able to get every Pokemon in this game, and the internet lost its shit over it. And at that point in time, the makers of the game kind of initially they were like, "Oh, well, it's a time constraint, and physical limitation type of thing, is we just don't have the time or the manpower to program everything in the game, blah blah blah." And that was kind of a flimsy argument in my estimation because it's like, okay, Pokemon is one of the biggest franchises in the entire world, so like how did they not have the ability to do something, so
Yeah, they could have definitely outsourced.
yeah,
Like even if the Game Freak team couldn't have done it themselves. I mean, they were working on another game at the same time. What's it called, like Town or something?
something like that. Yeah, I
Like
don't.
they didn't need to do that.
Yeah,
And I'm sure Nintendo has had plenty of
resources.
uh
It's Nintendo, for God's sakes.
yeah,
Like
yeah, they
if
had plenty of
Nintendo
people
doesn't
that they
have the
could have sent
resources to
over.
do something, who does?
Yeah, or even like reach out to like a third party and like outsource a little bit of it. Like Nintendo's done that with Zelda,
Hmm.
like outsource to I think Monolith for Breath of the Wild. Like they could have done something to help if it was a time constraint issue, which I
Yeah.
really don't think it was.
Well, I think the problem was they wanted to push the game out like they wanted to push the game out as quickly as possible, and that was the issue. And they wanted I guess maybe didn't want to do any of these things. Although, I think they should have. If that was the primary concern. And my other thought was that, if that was really the reason behind it, then make us wait another 6 months for the game. If it's really that issue, but after
Yeah,
the
but
fact,
they wanted out for Christmas though.
absolutely 100% yes. But after the fact, we got information that suggested that this was done purposely to kind of regulate the competitive metagame, which kind of brings me back to what you were saying, which yes, which is what I agree with 100%. I believe this was done to try and shape the competitive metagame, in the omission of certain Pokemon. So
Hmm.
that is definitely a factor as well. Um, so having said that, it's just I do have mixed feelings about it because all the examples we gave and even more. So I we could go down the entire list, but I'm just going to mention a couple of the other ones that stick out to me. They kept that I don't think that I think would have been easy cuts to the game, to kind of make a higher quality Pokedex, is that they kept the Goldeen line, which was another one of our prior
Yeah,
top tens was on there as a very
top 10
forgettable.
forgettable Gen ones.
Absolutely. So they kept that. That was a waste of space. All the Gen 5s lines that we talked about, that was a waste of space. In my opinion, they kept some weird stuff from Gen 3.
Yeah, the normal birds like
Yeah, that's.
Hoot
Oh, yeah,
Hoot.
the Gen 5 normal bird line, the Tranquil line, they kept that for some reason, but they had to cut Pidgeot, which was dumb. They also kept Delibird for some reason, even though that's just a one-off.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's
I
a
don't
lot of
think.
dumb stuff, and I think that it's just I don't know. I think that I in a sense I get what they were trying to do because they want to not everything in the game can be gold. I understand that, and that's why upon full reflection of this game, why I'm not super pissed off about the decks is because I get it. Like every dex has to have its duds. I understand
Mhm.
that. So, but I just think that if you are going to take your total Pokemon pool of at prior to Gen 8 it was 808 different Pokemon. If you're going to take that total Pokemon pool and you're going to reduce that by over half, then you better have a little bit better of a quality control on it. So this is probably one of the biggest knocks I have on this game. Actually, is the Pokédex and the limitations and the lack of quality control. Another couple of lines that are missing that really hurt for me personally are the Aggron line, because I love Aggron, specifically Mega Aggron, which
Mm,
wouldn't have made the game anyway. Because as another drawback to this game that we'll probably mention again later is no Mega Evolutions.
right.
But yeah, there's that line. I actually miss quite a few of the starter lines, like the Gen 4 starter lines. I actually miss those, although I understand they weren't gonna make it anyway. Um,
Yeah, it would have been nice to have Greninja back.
yeah, that was Gen 6 starter Greninja. That would have been cool. Well, actually, what
Hmm.
I was thinking, and maybe this is a random thought, but I was thinking it would have been cool if they would have had like one starter from every generation that they would have kept.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been so bad.
Yeah, so because they could have kept like Greninja from Gen 6, like Incineroar from Gen 7, Charizard from Gen 1, like maybe Feraligatr from Gen 2, Sceptile from Gen 3, and then Gen 4, I'd probably have to give it to Empoleon. But, as you can tell by the fact that I rattled those off so quickly, I put a lot of thought into that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so for some reason, Charizard's still around. But anyway, and then actually I knew this one wasn't going to make it either, but the Electros line, because I really like Electros, that one was a disappointment for me also. Um,
Yeah, that's an odd pick, but I
yeah.
mean, I feel the same way about Electabuzz.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about it. See, that's the other thing is now we're gonna start forgetting about our old favorites because they got canned. But and actually I guess the last one I want to mention on this list that I wish or Pokemon I wish they would have kept, and you might find this shocking, but I actually wish they would have kept the Ultra Beasts from Gen 7 because I actually thought they were really kind of unique and interesting type Pokemon, and I definitely would have liked to see them come back maybe in like a post game capacity like they were in like Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Um, but I know maybe a lot of people wouldn't agree with that sentiment. But
Yeah, I didn't go for the Ultra Beast in the post, so I can't comment on that. But
gotcha.
I will say that it is surprising they didn't include like Meltan and his evolution because like he was
Brand
I
new.
don't know they kind of pushed him out as like a big deal, but like he was in Pokemon Go and then Let's Go, right? And then like that's it.
Yes. So actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I failed to mention of those Pokemon that I mentioned that apparently there is data for in the data mines. Apparently, Meltan and Melmetal are in the game data for Sword and Shield, yet not part of the Pokedex. And if I remember correctly, or if my source is correct, actually a Gigantamax form for Melmetal is in the data for Sword and Shield, but we
All
don't
right,
have
yeah,
it.
I was thinking earlier that like just having the data doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be in there
Definitely. That
because
is 100% true. And I agree with you
yeah,
completely that it feels like a Pokemon that should have been a given to be in the decks, but for some reason wasn't, especially due to the fact that it was released in a really awkward cycle. Like it was a brand new Pokemon for a like soft reset like remake game, you know what I mean? So
yeah, like half spin-off kind of thing.
yeah, so it was
Um,
really strange to me that they didn't have it in the deck. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah,
Um,
if there's data in there for a Gigantamax form though, then I could definitely see it being like a post-launch
Promo or
kind of like
something.
event kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, more than likely
and
that's what they're gonna do.
yeah, I would love to see them like do like waves of events where they bring back all of the other ones slowly. But
Yeah,
they kind of said that they weren't going to do that.
I was just gonna say, unfortunately, they already Thanos,
Yeah,
aka Masuda, already said that that wasn't happening. So,
yeah, they shot
although
that down
Thanos
already.
was more gracious because he at least left us with half of all humanity, as opposed to Masuda didn't even give us half. But anyway, I digress. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's unless you have anything else you want to add about the chop on the Pokedex, I think that probably covers it pretty well.
Yeah, last thing I want to say is just free my boy Psyduck.
Yeah, free Psyduck. Hashtag
He's
free
a
Psyduck.
he's a good boy.
Yeah, I mean, I like Psyduck too, so I'm sad it wasn't there as well. So, but it kind of it is what it is. What can you do, I guess. So, but yeah, that kind of covers the cuts. Now we're gonna, I think, talk about the new Pokemon that we got because it wasn't all bad actually because we did lose a lot, but we also gained a decent amount as well. So In this generation, I think if my math is correct, we got about, I guess it's 72 or 71. Maybe my math was wrong before. I don't know, but somewhere around a little over 70, we'll say.
Mm.
Brand new Pokemon in this game, in addition to alternate forms for several existing Pokemon in the form of Galarian forms. So, um, I guess we could talk about. Do you want to do the Galarian forms first? Or do you want to talk about the
Yeah, yeah,
Pokemons? We'll do Galarian forms first. Okay. Um,
yeah. We can do that.
we didn't get, because it's kind of going to be a brief thing, I guess, because we didn't
Hmm.
get a ton of Galarian forms in this game, but we did get quite a few, some of which were actually very odd choices in my opinion. So I guess I'll start off with the good because I'm trying to be positive about Sword and Shield because overall, despite all the bitching we just did about the decks, I actually think that this was a pretty good game overall. Um, so we'll talk about the positives here first. So Galarian Ponyta and Galarian Rapidash. I am a fan of those. I think they the Rapidash line needed some love, and this was a good way to do it. Although I am disappointed that they are not fire type in part. But that
Yeah, I guess fire fairy or fire psychic would have been cool, but
Fire
yeah,
Fairy
yeah.
was what I
Galarian
was.
Rapidash, yeah,
Yeah,
Galarian Rapidash kind of carried my team.
did it
Like it
in the
was
yeah
in the
the
game,
story
yeah,
mode.
like yeah.
Yeah. So
It's just
that
like a
was. Go ahead.
really good. Yeah, it's just like a really good type combination though. Like even though it's not fire, like Psychic Fairy kind of takes care of a lot of stuff and
Yeah.
has a decent number of resistances, right?
Yeah, Psychic Fairy is a pretty good type combination, actually. It's only got three weaknesses and, like,
Yeah.
for some, I don't remember, maybe five resistance immunities. So it is a good typing. Um, but yeah, I was a fan of that. I was also a fan of giving Farfetch'd some love, which was actually, if I remember correctly, number one on our list.
Yeah.
Not to bring up our past collaborations, but plugging ourselves the whole way. But number one on our list of top 10 forgettable Gen 1 Pokemon. So seeing Farfetch'd get some love was nice.
Yeah,
Um,
specifically mentioned that he was one of the few like no evolution Pokemon from Gen 1 who didn't get any other forms or evolutions in like the last like what 20
20
some
plus
years,
years.
30?
Yep. Yeah. So, hey, who knows? Maybe Masuda saw our video and he was like,
Yeah,
hey, he's
that
right. Farfetched.
that
We need to do
yeah,
something with that.
that's canon now.
Yeah, that's canon on the captain's table here. And Captain B-Nard and Crash Love 37 are responsible for Galarian Farfetch'd slash Surfetch'd. You are welcome, world. So, um, but yeah, I was happy to see that. I was happy to see actually Corsola, which was a big shock to me because that was just kind of like a Pokemon that I didn't care about in Gen 2.
Right.
But I was actually really happy with what they did with Cursula, although I wish it was part water type. But I think it's a, even though it's a sad ode to the ecosystem devastation and the status of global warming and all that hardship. I think that it was a well executed idea in my opinion. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, like when I first seen the Corsola, I was like, wait a minute, isn't that one from like an older game?
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't even
exactly.
remember like the original one, but yeah, the new one's pretty neat.
Yeah. So the Zigzagoon line got some love. That was like the most random thing in the world, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because it was like, okay, Zigzagoon was like the Rattata of Gen 3, and
Right, like Rattata, but with like less recognition.
exactly, yes. And now it got a form, which I will say, I wasn't a huge fan of Zigzagoon getting a Galarian form and then a Galarian evolution. However, I will say that Obstagoon is actually pretty badass of a Pokemon. So
Yeah, I like it. It's
it
pretty cool.
it did work out. I glossed over Galarian Mr. Mime because I think that is an abomination personally, and Mr. Rhyme also an abomination. That's my
When I
opinion.
saw Mr. Rhyme, I like, what is this? Why is this happening? What did I do to deserve having this in this game?
Because they're in England, damn it, and they needed to make a Pokemon look like Charlie Chaplin for some
I
fucking
guess.
reason. That's what happened.
Like
So
I saw it and it didn't even register to me that like, oh, this is Mr. Mime's evolution.
yeah, yeah, like what is going on. Oh, and I also glossed over Galarian Meowth, which, while I have to say, Galarian Meowth, actually don't hate it. Berserker actually kind of liked it, the Galarian evolution. I will say that I think that it was completely 100% unnecessary to give Meowth another alternate form, especially since we just had an Alolan form last
Uh huh.
generation. So that was a waste that could have gone to something else.
Yeah,
Um,
I do like Berserker. Like
yeah.
I kind of, we're kind of used to seeing new evolutions to older Pokemon, but
Hmm.
it's been I mean, I believe it's been a while since we've had like an additional evolution to an old Pokemon.
Like a branch, yeah, kind of like the
Yeah,
evolutions are, yeah, because now you have
well, yeah,
Cantonian.
like Poliwag and Slowpoke got
Yeah,
them in Gen 2.
exactly. Yeah, so that's yeah, it has been. I believe you're correct on that. So I did, I thought that was kind of cool, and like I said, I did like Berserker, but at the same time, I was
Hmm.
just kind of like, you could have given somebody else, a form, but it was what
Plus,
it
plus
was.
you got the meme. My love for you was like a truck Berserker.
Yeah, we did get that, didn't we? Just like the old cat meme from Avengers Endgame. There's always a silver lining somewhere. So, but yeah, the rest of these, we have Galarian Darmanitan, which was another big shock to me that they're going this far up the chain, like because we actually got, I believe, three Galarian forms out of Gen 5, which I believe are the last three we have to talk about. And Galarian Darmanitan, which is actually an absolute beast competitively, which actually, prior to this video, just got pushed up to Uber, believe it or not, because
Oh
it is
wow.
just that disgusting of a Pokemon. It's just that broken. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, the transition from fire to ice. I wish it would have stayed fire, but wait, in Zen mode, Galarian Darmanitan it is the first and only ever dual type fire ice Pokemon, which is actually pretty insane. So I will say, I do like Galarian Darmanitan as well. Um, I don't know how you feel about him, but
I think he's neat.
mhm. And then we have Galarian for again another shocker from Gen 5, Galarian Yamask, which actually creates another branching evolution, which I thought was interesting, into Red, Regenerus or Renegris or I don't know, whatever, something like that. Um, you know, branching evolution with that and Coffagrigus, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Um, and then last and certainly least, your boy Stunfisk getting a Galarian form.
I forgot he had one.
Yeah, you know
That
how
was,
I
I
found
think
out
that
he
was the
had
biggest
one?
surprise for me.
You know how I found out he had an evolution is
You
I
stepped on it.
walked through the yeah yes, that's exactly how I found out. Is like I was walking through the cave in the story mode and I stepped on it and it popped up and I was like, what is happening right now? Like, oh, I was so mad. You have no idea. I was like, this is horrible. So I remember you talking about Stunfisk in our
Yeah,
first designs of Gen 5, and yeah, that it was bad.
yeah. All right. So overall, I do want to say that I do like that they're doing these things for like kind of like lesser known Pokemon or like ones that people don't really like
Yeah,
because
even though
because
sometimes it doesn't help, like in Stunfisk's case.
yeah, because in Gen 6 we got a bunch of Mega Evolutions, mostly from like Gen 1 and
Hmm.
like then later on in Gen 3,
Hmm.
but not a whole lot from like Gen 4 or Gen 2, right?
Yeah, I do agree with you. Is I like the fact that they didn't confine Galarian forms to just Gen 1 Pokemon, because Gen 1 has had so much love, in so many different facets that, there,
Deserve.
like you mentioned, there's a lot of Pokemon from other generations, like Corsola is a perfect example, that are kind of, glossed over or forgotten or,
Yeah.
whatever. So, I do 100% agree with you there that it was nice that they picked Pokemon that were not specifically only Gen 1 Pokemon to do this with. So, um, but yeah, that covers the Galarians. There aren't a ton of them, but Galarian forms. But I think overall most of them are pretty good in my opinion. I think that definitely some of them should not exist, but it kind of is what it is. So, um, but feeding on that, as far as new Pokemon goes, we got a lot of new Pokemon as well in the Galar decks, a little over 70, as I mentioned before. And actually, I have to say, right off the cuff, me being a cynic and a skeptic, um, despite that, I actually still enjoyed most of the new Pokemon they introduced actually in this generation. I think they came up with some original ideas. Not all of them were good. There were a decent amount that were duds, were stupid, whatever. But actually, I think most of the Pokemon that they introduced in this generation were actually pretty good. They were relatively original. They were relatively well done, and in both the capacity of design and typing and everything else about them. So I was relatively pleased. I could be happier, but I was relatively pleased with the new Pokemon that we got out of this generation.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much stuck with the same team throughout the entire
Okay.
game, so I didn't really get to experience a whole lot of the new Pokemon. I did catch a bunch of them, but
Okay.
I didn't really pay enough attention to them.
Okay.
Like,
Gotcha.
like
You
yeah,
were just trying to put the blinders on and focus on your let's see, what did they keep? Your damn, now I'm drawing a blank here. You're trying to focus on like your EV and your Steelix and your all that other stuff from other generations, Machamp and Gengar.
no. So the only old Pokemon that I actually finished the game with was a Vileplume
Oh, okay.
because I needed a good grass Pokemon. Um, but there were a few that really caught my eye, like the Ghost Dragon. Was it Dragapult?
Dragapult, yeah, that's a big
Yeah,
one.
like he's really good.
Yeah.
The the big dragon at the end of the game is pretty cool
Oh,
looking.
Duraludon,
I don't
Duraludon.
remember his
Yeah,
name.
you're talking about the Steel Dragon, right?
No, 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 the legendary one.
Oh, Eternus. Yeah, Eternus was pretty interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, yeah, he looks cool, but I mean, I'm not going to use him
Oh, of
on a
course not.
team.
No, me neither.
Yeah,
But yeah, I will rattle off a few that I thought were neat because I did pay good amount of attention to the new Pokemon. So, I thought Dragapult was very well done. We got another Dragon Ghost type, which prior to this, I believe Giratina was the only one. Sage
yeah, I think so.
himself. So one of our, to try and focus on the positives, one of our favorites from Gen 4 from a
Hmm.
prior list. So yeah, that was cool. The Duraludon was the Dragon Steel, which actually was the second Dragon Steel type after Dialga. So we got another one of those. So that was actually pretty cool. I liked him. Um, I did enjoy actually Centiscorch, the fire bug thing. That's like a centipede. I thought that thing was pretty neat. Also, we got Frostmoth, which was the first ever ice bug type Pokemon, which I thought was really cool. Um, we
Hmm.
got on the less like ridiculous side, we got Boltund, which was like that new dog thing. So I thought that thing was actually pretty neat.
Yeah,
Um,
he seems like a pretty good physical electric.
Yeah, yeah, kind of
Uh,
just like a better Manectric was the way I looked at him, even though they do have Manectric, although not Mega Manectric in the game.
right.
But yeah, so I liked him a lot. I actually liked, let's see here, what's it called? Morpeko, the new Pikachu ripoff of the
Oh yeah.
generation. I did kind of think that was with its like hangry mode and stuff. I thought that was
Uh-huh.
kind of funny, kind of dumb but kind of funny also. So, and then we got Colossal, which is a giant pile of coal, which is basically just like a better Mag Cargo essentially. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, it
Um,
reminds me of like a revamped Geodude line.
Yeah, that was another one actually that we failed to mention in our you know lines of Pokemon that had been left out of this game was the Geodude line. I guess after stepping on so many Geodudes, I kind of don't I don't miss it so much.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Like definitely, I feel like the Colossal line is more interesting than the Geodude line.
then
So
just
just because we had Geodude for so long, we already had a lowland form of that.
yeah. Oh, I forgot actually. In scrolling through the Gen 8 decks, I actually forgot about, and I can't believe I forgot about this because this was actually the first Galarian form that we ever saw. Galarian Wheezing. I completely
Oh
forgot about
yeah.
that, and maybe I forgot about it because I am not a fan of this thing at all for a couple of
It,
different
it
reasons.
looks fucking stupid.
Yeah, so one of which it looks retarded. Number two is that it is a poison fairy type rather than a poison fire type, which bothers me very much so because
Because it has smoke coming out of its head.
it's a chimney. It's literally a chimney. It's
Yeah.
not a fire type. So actually, that's another thing is I know I'm about to be petty with you guys right here, but that's what happens sometimes when you're a Pokemon fan for as long as I've been. There were a lot of typings in this generation that really bothered me because they didn't make sense, and a big one for me was Galarian Wheezing because it's not part fire. Another big one was I mentioned before Corsola and Cursula because they are not part water. Um, and if we see any more throughout the course of this, I will definitely bring them up. But yeah, there were quite a few examples of this. Oh, the one of the new Pokemon that I actually didn't like was how do you pronounce it? Phalanx or Phalanx or something like that, which is that thing that looks like
Oh, the
it's like
little
all the little
yeah, the
guys
little
like
bug guy.
dancing. Yeah, why is that not
I
fighting Bug? Why is that not fighting Bug? That's what I
that
want.
yeah, it should definitely be fighting bug. As a Pokemon itself, I do like the idea of it.
Okay.
Like because we've seen multiple Pokemon come together as one, like
Hmm.
Magneton. It's just
Yes.
three Magnemites, but having like one Pokemon that is made up of several different little things,
Little
I like that
dancing
idea.
bugs. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I guess we'll agree to disagree on that because I
So
didn't
it's
like
like
that thing.
it's like a Voltron.
Yeah, I did like though, which is one that I don't know that a lot of people do. I liked Cramorant, that bird thing. I like its ability a lot. That it
Yeah, its
catches
ability looks
fish,
really good.
and
Uh-huh.
when it catches Pikachu, it just looks amazing. So, but we
Yeah,
also
I
got
didn't pay much attention to Cramorant until I saw your latest battle video, and like
yes,
that's actually pretty cool.
yeah, I like that thing a lot. Um, and then I actually liked Toxicity again. First ever
Oh
electric
yeah,
poison type thing. That
Mhm.
thing's pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
I enjoyed.
I like the Grimmsnarl line.
Yes, I forgot about that actually, but yes, the first ever Dark Fairy. So we got a lot of first time ever
Hmm.
type combinations in this generation that I thought were really good, and Grimmsnarl was very good too. I think Dark Fairy, and they did a nice job with the design.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a goblin type thing, but
yeah.
yeah, I love the typing Dark and Fairy because I like I don't know like weird odd typings
Hmm.
like what Sableye what is it Ghost Dark
Yes. Yep.
like I like combinations like that
Yeah.
and
Same.
Dark and Fairy is definitely an interesting typing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree completely. Another pet peeve I kind of have about typing is grapple locked, that thing that's like an
Oh
octopus. Like,
yeah,
why is that not part water? Okay, what is
I
going on? Like, why?
I
Why?
don't.
It's an octopus. It's an octopus, people.
I was hitting it with my Vileplume, and I'm like, why is this not doing super effective damage?
Yeah, and then you
He's a
found out it
he's
was
a
pure.
goddamn octopus.
Yeah, that's pure fighting, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So yeah, that was another one. As a Pokemon, I could take it or leave it, but another one that I thought was pretty good was Stonejourner. Like like that stone block thing. I thought that was interesting. Um, Ice Cube actually was another interesting one for me, and these I'm not saying that I really love them or anything, but I don't hate
Mhm.
them either. But they were kind of interesting. Those two. Um, some ones that I actually probably some of the only Pokemon besides the ones that I have mentioned that I really didn't like in this generation were the fossil Pokemon. I didn't think any of those were any good personally. And the way that they
Yeah,
did the
kind of
fossil
dumb.
Pokemon in this generation were really stupid, in my opinion, too. Is they make it like you have to stick two fossils together,
Uh huh.
and then it looks like some kind of abomination that's just praying for death when you're looking at it.
Yeah, yeah, like some kind of like full monogamous chimera. It's like a
Yes.
bird head sticking out of a rock.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
yeah. We have a bird head sticking out of like a giant fat dragon ass. I'm like, or like a fish head sticking on like a
Yeah,
skeleton or yeah. Like the I'm not feeling these fossil Pokemon this generation. I think those were honestly some of the worst Pokemon in the decks, in my opinion, were those four fossil Pokemon.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that sticks out to you want to throw out there
I
about
I
about.
mean, so I'll say that the fossil idea is interesting, like
Hmm.
combining different parts to make a Pokemon, but not like that.
No, why does it have to look so horrible?
Yeah, like it
Yeah.
looks like you took two images in Photoshop, cut them both in half, and stuck two halves together. Like there's no transition.
Yeah, does look like
But
that, doesn't it?
yeah, I think that's enough for the
Yeah, that,
for the
we've
Pokemon.
said enough as far as those fossils go.
Oh, what do you think about the box legendaries?
Oh, yeah, actually, so okay. At first, I thought that they were completely ridiculous because, okay, and I'm sure you've seen the memes. We got a lot of good memes about, okay, the Sword and Shield legendaries are the dog with the stick in its mouth and the dog with the safety cone around its neck. So yeah, so I was not a fan of these legendaries initially. However, I will say that they've grown on me because they are kind of ridiculous. Well, especially like okay, let me just say this. I am, as a general rule of thumb, I am not a fan of Pokemon that hold detachable inanimate objects as part of them. I am not a huge
Right.
because it seems
That doesn't make
so
a whole lot of sense.
exactly. It does not make sense. And so that is why I went with well, that plus the pro wrestling reference is the reason that I went
Yeah.
with Pokemon Shield is because the sword legendary, the fact that it is Pokemon that has a sword in its mouth just doesn't make sense to me. Now, granted, they did kind of appease me with this in game because they made it so the base form of the Pokemon does not have the sword in its mouth. Much like the Shield Legendary, the base form of the Shield Legendary doesn't have the shield for the main, although
Right.
that makes a lot more sense is that okay, it has like a big mane like a shield kind of. So that makes more sense to me. But yeah, so and then they have to hold the special item in order for them to change form and actually become either the sword or the shield. So
Yeah, so that makes more sense, especially if it's a legendary and there's only one in the entire world. It makes more sense to have for them to have an accessory.
yes, 100%. So
Yeah.
Pokemon that are born with an accessory, like Farfetch'd for example, it comes out of the womb with a sprig of onion in its wing.
Right,
like
or Kangaskhan being born with a baby already.
okay. What the hell is that? like that's probably the worst offense of anything, to be honest with you. Like, and you thought Chansey being born with an egg in its pouch was bad. No, Kangaskhan is born with a full-blown child in its pouch. Although neither of those Pokemon are in this game, so I guess we're supposed to forget about that, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
We're not
So,
we're not gonna play Gen 7 anymore. Gen 6.
yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So, but
I do
yeah,
miss a double fake out though.
the double fake out. Oh yeah, the old Mega Kangaskhan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
All
good
right.
stuff. So
Moving on. Moving on. We're
yes,
in Gen 8 now.
yes. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about the one other new Pokemon that I wanted to mention that did stick out to me. Although legendaries would have been a good place to leave it. Was the new snake thing, the like the Sanaconda. I actually have mixed feelings about that thing. That I kind of want to lump that in the same boat as I lumped like the Stone Journer and the Ice Cube because they're kind of interesting and different, but I don't really know how I feel about it because it's like a snake, but like its entire body is like wrapped in itself, which is kind of weird. And then like yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I
just
was, I was going to mention it. I mean, it's all right.
yeah.
I feel like some of these Pokemon were only made for their Gigantamax forms.
Yes, that is 100% true. And that is a great segue into talking about the Dynamaxing slash Gigantamax aspect
Hey,
of the game. Nice work. You are the master of segues. I give you that. So yeah. Let me just say, on the face of it, as far as the Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing thing go, the idea of the Dynamax initially, I was very opposed to it, and I did not like it at all when we first got the news. Um, when the game was announced about the whole Dynamaxing thing, I was very opposed to it. I thought it was really stupid. It's like, oh, your Pokemon's just going to be big now. Okay. So like
yeah,
so I really didn't like it. Um, After playing the game and upon further reflection, I still don't fully like it, but I'm actually okay with it now because it kind of like and the main reason that I'm more okay with it now is because it felt like a good way to balance out competitive play, because it's like an ace in the hole that you have, that your Pokemon doesn't have to have a special item, or it doesn't have to be a specific Pokemon. Any Pokemon can do a Dynamax at any time, and you can only do it once per game. It only lasts for 3 turns. So I actually warmed up from a competitive sense to the idea of Dynamaxing. Ironically, they recently banned Dynamaxing from competitive play, but I thought that that was a, because people, of course, as people will do, they find a way to abuse it. Um, but I really did think
Yeah.
that that was a pretty good idea. I don't know how you felt about it, but
So I never really thought about it that way.
mm,
I mean, I felt the same way you did. Like, oh, it just gets big. That's stupid.
right.
And you have to watch like this animation every time, and it takes so long. Like, I just want to kill this thing and catch it. But,
Yeah, it is very
but
time consuming, especially in the max raids. If you're talking about that,
yeah,
that is
yeah,
very time
exactly.
consuming, and that is a big drawback. Absolutely.
Yeah, but like you said about it being like an additional aspect of battling
Hmm.
that every Pokemon can do. You don't have to like attach a Mega Stone to it or give it like a Z crystal or whatever.
Hmm.
I didn't think about it that way, and it makes sense
Yeah.
to make it balanced for everyone. But at the same time, it's like I don't, I don't like it. I would really prefer to have Mega Evolutions back because I think that was a good idea, and it adds more strategy into building your team rather than actually just like during battle be like, oh, I'm just gonna smash this button and make him big.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. I do definitely still, like, if you gave me a choice of if I'd rather have a Mega Evolution or a Dynamax, I'd definitely choose the Mega Evolution over. I do think the Mega Evolution was better than the
Yeah,
Dynamax.
and it like it turns all your moves into like the same moves, and it just feels more boring.
Yeah, it's more homogenized essentially, because basically what they did, because after 20 plus years, Pokemon's running out of ideas. Let's be honest here. So
Yeah,
basically what they did was they smashed together the idea of a Mega Evolution with the idea of a Z move, and then you have
yeah,
Dynamax.
exactly.
So I mean, it kind of is what it is. Like I said, I'm still not crazy about it, but I'm kind of, I've made peace with it, and I'm kind of okay with it. Like, I don't hate it. But something I do actually dislike is the fact that you have these Gigantamax forms, which is basically a special form that only certain Pokemon can have, while Dynamaxed. And the main reason that I don't like this is because it seems like an incredible waste. Because a Gigantamax Pokemon, for all intensive purposes, is the exact same thing as a Dynamaxed version of the same Pokemon. The only difference is that they get a special move. So their
Right.
one move does something different. And that just feels like a huge, huge, huge waste to me. Because, okay, it's like you're going out of your way to make a special form for these Pokemon, like we were talking about. The Sandaconda turns into a Snake Tornado. We'll call it Snake Nado instead of Sharknado, but which actually doesn't look terrible. But it's the same damn thing as if you would just do Giganta, or a regular Dynamax of the same Pokemon, except for now one of its moves has a different secondary effect. That's the only difference. So it
Yeah,
feels like a long way to go for nothing, and that's what I don't
yeah.
like.
I feel like it was just like an excuse to make more forms of the same Pokemon.
Yeah, I could see
Because
that.
yeah, it's just a novelty, like the long cat Meowth. I mean, yeah, it's funny, but like
Yeah.
bringing back Fat Pikachu, like yeah, like
Yeah.
that's cool, but I don't
It
I
doesn't
don't
do anything for you,
care enough. Yeah,
Like,
like I could just look at a picture of it and be like, oh, haha, Fat
yeah.
Pikachu.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So,
I'm not
yes.
gonna go through all that trouble and like do all that. It's not worth it, really.
No, not at all. Having said that, in the next
Yeah.
competitive team that I'm going to be rolling out, there are several Gigantamax forms on there. Just because it would bother me if there was a Gigantamax form for a Pokemon that I was using and I didn't have it. But that's the other thing,
Right.
actually, as far as Gigantamaxing goes, is that it's not transferable via breeding. So the only Pokemon, like, you say you catch a Gigantamax Pokemon in a raid, that specific version of that Pokemon is the only one that is going to go Gigantamax. So, it's kind of like, you can't breed it, you can't, really do anything with it. It's just kind of that specific Pokemon. I thought it would be
Right.
kind of a better idea as far as that go, if they were to, like, once you caught the Gigantamax version of a Pokemon, then then like any Pokemon of that species you could Gigantamax. I thought that would have been a better way to do it, but
Oh yeah.
like, so
Or like
say,
at the very least, pass it down through breeding.
exactly, something like that. But no, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
only that specific one. But you know,
Yeah, because like if you catch it, you better hope it has good IVs and like
exactly. But
hope you don't need any egg moves.
yes, well, yeah, egg moves are not going to be a thing. But
Huh.
as you know, all of you probably know, in this generation, there are actually ways that you can fix everything essentially, which we're going to get into when we in a little, a second, when we start talking about other features of the game. But there is a way to fix everything in about your Pokemon in this game, which is actually a big plus as far as I'm concerned. Although it is very grindy and very time consuming and monotonous. But to kind of finish on the Gigantamax forms, I just think that I feel like there should have been, to make it more worth it, like, okay, they should have done one or the other, in my opinion. Like, they should have either made it so, okay, only certain Pokemon can get big, and then when they get big, they have an alternate form, or they should have made some massive notable difference between a Gigantamax form and a Dynamax form that makes it worth the struggle of obtaining the Gigantamax version of the Pokemon. So
Yeah, because like at first I didn't realize there was a difference. Like I was playing through the game and I saw like a Gigantamax. I was like, that looks kind of different.
yeah,
But like I
yeah,
didn't realize it was two separate things.
right, yeah, because for all intents and purposes, it's not. Aside from that
Right.
one effect on that one move, it's not. So, although I have to say, I think some of the designs of them are pretty cool. Specifically, the Scorch Dynamax, which makes it like get all long like Shenron, essentially. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
so I thought that one's pretty cool. The Gigantamax Snorlax is just absurd.
Right.
It is the world, apparently, with a tree growing out of its stomach.
Yeah, he's a Torterra.
Yeah, basically, he's the reverse Torterra,
Yeah.
essentially. So Torterra did make it into the game after all.
Yeah.
It's Galarian Torterra, aka Gigantamax
Snorlax.
Snorlax. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another. As a side tangent, I don't know if you see this, but there was a meme circulating, because the one of the new features in the game is you can like cook curry, like sausage curry and all that stuff. And the meme was like, "Oh look, Embor made it into the game, and with a new
Uh-huh.
Galarian form." And it's just like the package of the sausage. So that was pretty funny, um, but yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. So I think now, unless you have anything else you want to throw in.
No, give me one.
Okay, I think now is probably a good time to move on to talking about the rest of the game. So obviously, we wanted to take care of the big elephant in the room right away, which is, of course, the Pokemon,
Did you get to
because
Max Snorlax?
yeah, well, literally the elephant in the room. Yeah, no, that's Copperajah, another new
Yeah.
Pokemon we didn't talk about, but that thing was actually kind of okay. Um, but but yeah, so we wanted to get that out of the way because that is, I mean, at least I think for us anyway, and for a lot of fans, I think that that's really the big deal when it comes to Pokemon is, okay, which Pokemon are in the game, what are the new Pokemon, and new forms and new everything, and what are the old ones we're going to get to keep in this game was a big thing. So so yeah, we wanted definitely to talk about that first because that's always one of, if not the biggest parts of the game. But there's a lot of other little stuff around the game that we want to bring up too. Some good, some bad. And I think we should probably start with talking about the story of the game briefly, which I will say I actually did enjoy the story mode of this game. It took me a while to beat it. That was probably one of the only complaints I have about the story mode in this game is it felt really long. I don't know if you got that feeling playing it.
So yeah, like I thought the story was just fine. Like it was actually a cohesive story
Mhm.
with things happening. It didn't hold your hand all the way through like Sun and Moon.
And it was kind of
Um,
original too. It was
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
it
It
was
was it
nice.
was a, it was a good story for a Pokemon game, but the ending was so long. Like I didn't want to play anymore. I just wanted it to be over.
Yeah,
Like
and that.
seriously,
Yep.
like by the time I got to the eighth gym, I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go hit the Elite Four, and it's like, no, you're not. You're gonna do all this other shit first, and then you're gonna fight like 18 fucking people in a row, and like I didn't want to. And then,
Yeah,
And
and
then
then
there's post game, and it's the same fighting the same people in a bunch of Gigantamax, which takes like 30 minutes because you have to watch the animation like every time, and I don't want to do that.
yeah, that's a big grievance of a lot of people. As far as overall grievances with the game, the not being able to skip the animation for the Dynamaxing and
Yeah.
Gigantamaxing is a big, is an issue. Um, but yeah, as far as the story, that's the only other issue I was going to mention that I had with the story mode was that at the end, it not only takes forever because you have to go through this tournament and beat like 20 people, like you
Yeah.
said, but so the Elite Four is now like 20 people. That's where we're at in the year 2019, now 2020.
Although I do want to say though, I do appreciate them letting you heal in between fights.
Absolutely. Well, that kind of does make sense because of the structure that this game is under, because it's basically just like a big, big tournament, a big contest
Yeah.
essentially. So it
Hmm.
does. So I enjoyed that. Um, but yeah, the fact that the ending was A, so long and drawn out, and B, the fact that it felt like when they brought like a Turnus in and everything at the end, it just felt incredibly anticlimactic to me. Because like, okay, the whole time with the story mode, I was just thinking in the back of my head, I was like, okay, this Rose guy's a bad guy. This Rose guy's a bad
Well,
guy.
yeah,
It's
of
so
course.
obvious he's a bad guy. Do something bad, and he waits till like the 11th hour at the 59th minute to do something bad. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you couldn't have waited
Yeah.
any longer to do something bad. And then when he does finally, it's like, okay, it's over in like 5 minutes. So
Yeah, and then also when he did something bad, he was like, "I was doing it for a good reason." Like,
yeah,
what didn't like the last couple main villains do that too?
I think pretty much all of them have, honestly. To be honest,
Not Giovanni.
well, yeah, no,
Giovanni's
not
badass.
Giovanni, but I mean like the last several games, like I think leading all the way back to because I know that's the way it was in Sun and Moon, although that was a weird situation. But prior to that, in Gen 6, with Team Flare and Lysander, it was kind of the same. Like he thought he was like Jesus or something, trying
I
to save the
I
world.
don't even remember what the fuck Gen 6 was about. That was,
Oh, it was like so it was like they were building a machine to like save the world or
yeah,
some
to
bullshit.
like
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
But
Somebody blew it up.
yeah, and then
Although
Gen 7 was just Team Skull doing like thug things. So
doing some skullduggery.
yeah, yeah. So but
Yeah, Gen 5 best story.
yeah, a lot of people say that, and it kind of, even though I think Gen 5 was the worst generation personally, and I hadn't even finished a Gen 5 game and still haven't, hearing that from so many people does kind of almost make me want to pick up like Black 2 or White 2 and play it, because everybody says that the Gen 5 story is so awesome. So
Yeah, go like seriously play through Black or White and then play through Black or White 2 all the way through the end, post game and everything, and then let's do another podcast.
yeah, I might do that actually. I might, although I have had my hands full with Sword and Shield, but
Yeah,
I might potentially do that at some point. I just, not to tangent off again, but like the main
right.
reason was just like the Pokemon. Going back to the Pokemon in Gen 5, it was just like I don't want to catch an ice cream cone and fight with it. Like, give me a break, guys.
So
But
your ice cream cone is some garbage.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, my garbage versus your ice cream cone. Like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But yeah, so back to the Sword and Shield. I think that aside from those things, I think that the story mode was actually very good for a Pokemon game.
Yeah.
I like the new, like the intrigue kind of with like the your rival being like the little brother of the champion and all that they had going on. I liked how your rival was not a complete useless turd in this game too, like he is in like
Yeah.
just about every other
Uh,
game.
yeah, the
Um,
last couple, like the rival didn't even feel like a rival. He just felt like your buddy that you always beat, and he was like, "Oh, I'll get you next time." But
yeah.
like this one, like he actually got like down on himself about losing all the time,
Well, yeah, and
and
then
he
he like changed his team and got better and
yeah,
did different
like
things.
that's what I want to see. I want to see character growth, not just be like, "Oh darn, you beat me," because I'm not gonna be the champion.
Yeah, yeah, that
And
was every game before this. So,
yeah, well, except for Gen 1
well, yeah,
and Gen 2,
yeah. I
but
was gonna say
but
the last five.
um, yeah, yeah. But you also had the asshole rival with that one dude.
Oh, Beta or Beatty or whatever the hell his name
Yeah, yeah.
was. Yeah, yeah, that guy was a dick. And then
Yeah, and like that's what I like because like Gen 6 we had a couple different rivals, but they all had the same
they were all
personality.
terrible. I mean, I did
Yeah.
like X and Y. Let me say that, but like the way they did the rivals in X and Y were horrible, absolutely horrible. Gen 7 was better, but it still was kind of like the same, like what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Like your rivals, just like, oh, you beat me. Guess I'll never be the champion. Like, but in this
Yeah.
gen, they did it right with, like you said, they had your friend rival, and then
Mm-hmm.
with Hop, and then you had, which like I said was kind of an intrigue because he was the champion Leon's
Right.
little brother, and then you have
The asshole rival.
yeah, the asshole rival, which was
Beatty.
working. Yeah, he was working for evil Chairman Rose the whole time, even though
Yeah, and then you have like the third like that girl,
oh
the
Marnie,
one dude's so, yeah, like I would count her as a rival also.
yeah, she was a
And
cool
she
character actually.
yeah, she had a completely different story because she was related to one of the gym leaders and they kind of worked, back and forth
Yes,
on
she
each
was
other and
she was the younger sister of the. This is the other thing. Another thing I wanted to bring up: the first ever dark type gym leader in this generation that we got. So, which ties in with the villainous team. Which I have to say, okay, since we're going to talk about that whole thing, hated Team Yell. 100% hated Team Yell. I thought it was a mockery of like the whole villainous team thing, and I get what they were trying to do. Okay, I get it. They saw what they did with Team Skull in Gen 7, which in my opinion was perfect. Team
yeah, I
Skull
like
was the
Team Skull.
perfect comic relief bad guys. It worked 100%, and I loved it. So they saw that and they were like, okay, let's take that to the next level with Team Yell and make them even more pathetic and more worthless and more inconsequential. And in doing so, they lost me. They 100% lost me because Team Yell feels like the most insignificant, unimportant, inconsequential villainous team or piece of the game that I've ever seen, honestly. So,
Yeah, like I really don't mind the idea of having a team in a Pokemon game that
yep,
is not actually the main
yep,
antagonist.
right,
Like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. But Team Yell, they're just annoying. Like, they're not funny. They don't add anything to the story,
nope,
and
like,
they all have the same Pokemon.
yep.
Like, there's no point in them even being there at all.
No, not at all. And that's why I hated Team Yell. I didn't like it. But having said that, I really like the way they did the first ever dark type gym leader with what's his name, Pierce, I think it was.
Yeah.
I like the way that they did him. I like the way that they did like the intrigue with his little sister being like the gym challenger. I like the way that they did the whole city with the like, oh, we don't Dynamax here kind of thing. I thought that was a really
Hmm.
unique and interesting way to deliver the first ever dark type gym leader. And at first I was skeptical, I'm not going to lie, because I was kind of like in my mind I was like, okay, it's just kind of like an unwritten rule of Pokemon. You just don't have a dark type gym, so it's kind of like a tradition. And when I saw that they were going to be doing a dark type gym, at first I was a little bit, annoyed because I was like, oh, they're breaking that tradition. But I will say, after having seen the way they did it, I was very happy with the way they did it. I thought they gave it justice to the fact that it was the first ever dark type gym, and I really like what they did with it, with the way the story played out with it and all that. I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to like, I think they did do a great job with the characters in this game.
Yes, 100%. That's the big picture that we're getting at. I think here is that the characters in this game were pretty much all, even the champion, like unbeatable
Yeah.
champion Leon. Like that. Like I thought he was a great character. He really was, and he had like um, kind of like a arrogance to him, but it was not like an obnoxious arrogance, like a swagger kind
Right.
of, I guess you would say. And like you like the interaction with like the other like in-game characters and all that. It worked. It really did work. I mean, his outfit was ridiculous, but and his facial hair was also
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it all fit him though. Like
Yeah,
that was
well,
his
that was what he
personality.
was. He was ridiculous, over the top, kind of. Yeah, so it did fit the character, um, but yeah, I enjoyed all
Yeah.
that. Honestly, I thought it was is
Yeah,
very
like
well
it
done.
felt like I was playing an actual like RPG, not just a Pokemon game.
Exactly. Yes, and that was a big thing for me as well. Is it definitely they did it justice. They really did in a lot of ways. Um, Even like okay, so the way they did the Pokemon Professor in this generation, I was actually shocked. Um, the way they did that, and at first I kind of didn't like it, but then after the fact, because they did it like, okay, the old lady was the Pokemon Professor, but she was literally in like two cutscenes or three cutscenes the entire game. Like she was just not a
Right.
factor. So you had like the her granddaughter or whatever, filling in and doing all the other stuff. So at first I didn't really like that, but then after the fact, I kind of was like, okay, it's kind of like a changing of the guard type thing, that's what they're trying to show as like an overall feeling of this game, and they even furthered that with the fairy type gym leader subplot where they had
Yeah.
that like the old lady, and she was like looking for her replacement, and then she found Beatty or whoever
BD.
to take over, and then he like like he did like a character metamorphosis too, like he transitioned from being
Yeah.
like an evil asshole to use and psychic type Pokemon to then now he's using fairy types, and he's still kind of a dick, but like he's not really a bad guy, so like
Yeah, like putting actual thought into the characters instead of just um getting you through the story pretty much like that helped overall make the game like a better game.
oh yeah, 100%. I think that's that we're just kind of calling out like specific instances of the story that we that of good examples of that. But yeah, that's definitely the overall encompassing thought here that I do agree with 100%, is that all that stuff contributed to making this story mode very enjoyable for me,
Hmm.
um, and the game as well. Um, so another little thing that I think, I guess another a little thing post game is like how, and they did this in Gen 7, was how they start referring to you as the champion after you win, which is something that was
Right. Hmm.
new in Gen 7, but they carried it over to this. So I thought that was great, because in other games it's like, oh, you beat the league and become the champion, and then it's like, oh, you want to challenge the league, and it's like,
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It just like resets everything in the game. But yeah, I like that, the story continues. It's like you became the champion and you're still alive.
yes, you're still the champion,
Yeah,
and you
like you
do
didn't just
champion
turn the game
things.
off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a small thing also. I liked how they updated after you become the champion, how they update the intro screen to the game to be you with your team that you won the championship with.
I
So
didn't notice it. I
oh,
didn't
you
take the
keep
game
skipping
out of
it.
the
Don't skip it next time. Don't skip it. If you let it play, if you let the intro play through all the way, it cuts to like it used to be before you beat the game. I think just a blank stadium. But when you beat the game, it cuts to you standing on the field with your team that you beat the league with.
That is cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it is very cool actually. So I thought that was a little thing that was a great touch. I also thought as a side note, the music in this game was actually very on point and very enjoyable. Not that it hasn't been in other games, but I think particularly in this game, I really enjoyed like all the theme music for like the battles, or pretty much all of it, for the characters and the battles. So that was pretty awesome. Um,
Yeah, I didn't really hate any of the music really that I can think of.
Yeah. So I liked, and again, this I know this wasn't a new thing, but the because we got this in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, was the seeing the Pokemon in the overworld, which is a huge
Yep.
game changer in the world of
Love it.
Pokemon. Yes, I love that. It was long overdue, and it was the first time in a mainline series Pokemon game that we got it, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think they did a great job kind of like appeasing the people that didn't like it because they still had random battles, but you could walk around them.
yes, yes.
Like they implemented everything just perfectly in that regard.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with you completely. Um, I'm trying to think. I don't know if you have anything off the top of your head that you like, little stuff that you liked about the game. I'm just kind of going through in my head.
Yeah, I took a couple notes here.
Good.
I like how I like how HMs are completely gone. Like
Yeah.
they are completely out of there. Like Gen 7, they started it,
Yeah.
but they still had like strength and like surf and stuff like that,
Well, they
right?
had like the
But you had to
ride
like
Pokemon and stuff like
yeah.
that. So
But
that
in this
was
one, like this one you open your map and you pick a location and it's like you go there.
yeah.
Like it's so quick and easy, and you don't have to surf or nothing like that. Stop by the water and push a button. You just go into the water on your bike.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say convenience actually is a big thing. I'm glad you brought this up.
Hmm.
Convenience in a lot of aspects of the game, so that's a big one. Convenience in traveling around, convenience in accessing your PC and your Pokemon cards, which
Yes,
you can now do from your bag.
that's amazing.
Yes, that was a huge.
Like
Well, like when I
that's one of my
saw that,
favorite things they added.
yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" And I was like,
Yeah,
"Wow, this could work," you know?
yeah, and they still gave you a reason to go to the actual PC to do like the lottery thing or send your Pokemon out on little missions to get items and
Yep.
give them some EXP, which I enjoy that kind of thing in any game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as much about that stuff as you are, I know, but I do. I enjoy that the option exists to that you can do
Hmm.
that. That is an option, although I don't usually really do it very often, if at all. But I'm more focused on the main stuff. But yeah, having side stuff like that is kind of neat. They had the Rotom Rally, which is like a mini bike race you can
Hmm.
do and win stuff. So that's another side thing, which is kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, I did want to also talk about. I don't know if you have anything else you want to call out, but I want to talk about the wild area too, because that's a game changer also.
All right, I do have something that I wanted to mention that will actually lead into that.
Oh yeah, go for it. Oh, I,
Yeah,
I jumped the
yeah,
gun. Damn it.
yeah.
All
You
right,
yeah
go.
you did. You,
Go ahead. Okay,
master of
ignore the
segues.
last 10 seconds of this show and go ahead.
All right, so one of the things I really like that they added is the social aspects of the game.
Hmm.
Um, like before, what was it, Gen 7, I think, where you would do all the online stuff like battling and trading and all that.
Yeah, well, you could do that in 6 and 7, but yeah.
6 and 7,
Yeah. But
but
in Gen
but I
7 they
like
had
the
the Festival Plaza, which was hot
yeah, yeah,
garbage.
yeah.
So
So you can just turn it on and you can like do trades, surprise trades, join people's max raids or whatever, um,
yeah,
and like do battles like just like right there, and you don't have to like do anything else. Like stuff pops up letting you know what's available for you to do. You see what your friends are up to, and I just think that like that was a really good idea because Pokemon should be like a more social game instead of just like a single player until you have someone that you want to battle or trade with. So I
yeah.
really like how they did that, and uh, setting up the camps where you can join other people's campgrounds and like cook with them and whatever.
Hmm.
And when you're in the wild area, you see all those different people riding around the wild area. You talk to them, you get like little items and stuff. But I really like how they started to add social aspects. I mean, there could have been a lot more, and it could have been implemented a lot better. But they did a job. They did
Yeah,
their
they did a
best.
good enough job on it. I agree.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest criticisms was the online interface. And I actually did my own solo podcast about this quite some time ago, which is things I wanted to see from Gen 8. And this was about well over a year ago, probably like a year and 3 months ago at this point. And one of the big things that I harped on in that podcast was the online interface of Pokemon was trash and it needed a complete and utter rehaul. And I am, like you said, it's not perfect, but I am very happy overall with what we got as far as the online interface goes in this game because
Hmm.
like you said, you can stop wherever, you can see, all you have to do is connect to the internet. You press Y on your controller, you can do a trade, you can do a battle from anywhere. If you go in the wild area, you can see everybody. It's great. It is so much better than the Festival Plaza that I almost like
Yeah.
I was like shorting out almost when I was like it was almost like overwhelming for me because before it was like you couldn't even like battle and trade at this, like you couldn't even see two people do two different things at the same time in the Festival Plaza in Gen 7, and now like you can do like anything you want wherever you want with whoever you want, and it's like it was like overwhelming, honestly. It was. I was like, wow, this is like, and this is incredible compared to the shit that we had before.
Yeah, definitely. And like you could start a surprise trade and then ride around until you get like a partner to do it.
Yep.
Instead of going to the festival plaza, picking one to trade or whatever, and then like waiting.
And waiting.
Yeah, like you can just hit the button and go about your business, collect some
Yeah.
was it watts or whatever?
Yep, collecting watts, picking up items, which actually I guess brings us to the wild area, the segue. Um,
I told you.
Yes, we got there. So, but yeah, I have to say, speaking of being overwhelmed, when I first saw the wild area in the story mode, I was overwhelmed. I was like, holy shit, like this is insane. Like there is so much here. There's so much to do. There's so much to collect. There's just so much, here that it was like overwhelming kind of, I don't know if you had that feeling too when you first saw it. Um, but it was, just like kind of mind blowing that because they've never had something like this before in a Pokemon game.
Right. I wouldn't say I was overwhelmed. It is something that I have been like wanting in a Pokemon game. Like I feel the whole game should be like this.
Yeah.
Like just give you like a wide open space to go do pretty much whatever you need to do. Um, I like that there are a ton of items on the ground that you can just pick up as you're riding around. Um, you can see the Pokemon. You can see the stronger Pokemon pop up, and you know which ones are the stronger ones.
Mhm.
I like that it updates and changes all the time, so it's
Mhm.
not the same Pokemon in the same areas all the time.
Mhm.
Um, there's a breeding house there. There's access to pretty much, well, different parts of the map within the wild area.
Yep, and
Even
there's
if you,
traders that you can get items off of, and of
mhm,
course the
the money
dens.
battle lady.
Oh yeah, her. You can hunt her down and get an extra 24,000 yen or whatever it is every time you beat her ass. Which she has level 60 versions of all the final forms of the starters. Interestingly, um,
Yeah,
but yeah.
slap a was it lucky coin or whatever?
Oh yeah, damn it, I've the amulet coin. Yeah, I completely
Amulet
forgot
coin.
about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I've been doing that.
Damn it, I
And
didn't even think of that.
yeah, because like one thing I forgot to mention, this game is expensive.
Oh
Like in old
yeah,
Pokemon games, like I had no problem with money, but this one, like I'm buying like Ultra Balls, Quick Balls. Like there's a bunch of TMs that you need to buy, and they're expensive.
yeah. I was gonna say there's a lot of shit to buy in this game, 100%, and not just expensive clothing like in the prior games that you didn't need it, like
Right.
like
Oh yeah,
TMs. Yep, and
yeah. I bought that leather jacket. It was hella expensive, but I bought it.
yeah, that was my first. Actually, I made it a mission to have a different outfit for every different team that I have, which is going to get pricey.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I did that last time in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, and it worked out okay. Um, but yeah, so I had the white leather jacket on my first costume, so I was rocking it, and that was pretty cool. Um,
But yeah, like I like how there's like just so much you can
so much to
do
do.
in the
It's just
wild
so
area.
much to do that it's like, and it resets so frequently, and
Hmm.
you can go back and like you can just spend however much time you want or you have doing stuff in that area, and it's honestly it's incredible. Like I at first, like I said, I'm not gonna lie, I was overwhelmed, but then once I finally wrapped my head around it, because I like to know the parameters of everything that I'm getting into, so when I first got into the wild area, I think I was overwhelmed because it seemed like this boundless area that it was just went on forever. But once I kind of got familiar with it, I was like, okay, and I knew where everything was, and
Uh huh.
now I'm just kind of the point like this is great. Like this is honestly it was something that I didn't even really think about having in a Pokemon game prior to this, but now that it's here, I'm like, wow, this is just incredible. It's a big open area to do whatever you got to do, like you said. So it's crazy, but it's great. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Like once I beat the eighth gem, like I didn't really feel like going to Elite Four right away. Like I thought
Or the
my
Elite
Pokemon were
20
a bit
rather.
under leveled. Elite 20, yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. The finals of the tournament, which is actually like playing like an entire like Yu-Gi-Oh tournament.
yeah, it's like a
Like
whole
one time.
tournament of whatever, yeah, which is gonna
Yeah.
take like a whole day.
Yeah, but I just spent like a lot of time just riding around the wild area picking up items because you get like nuggets and stuff that you can sell for money.
Oh yeah,
Um,
there's so
going
much
to
so
the
much money, and if you I don't know if you check these guys out, but if you farm too many watts, then you know what to do with the digging duo is near the
I was
daycare.
about to mention them. Yeah,
Yes,
like I hit them up every time because they just give you items.
yes, items upon items upon items. The guy
Yeah,
on the left is better in my opinion. The guy that gives you less quantity but higher quality, I
yeah.
like him more.
And
Because
then
you can actually get bottle caps from that guy too. I don't know if you got one yet.
you do pick up in the wild area. Like it's not always just um like sellable items or whatever.
Yep.
Or just like Pokeballs or stuff like that. Like I picked up like an assault vest.
Oh yeah, I've picked up leftovers and other items
Yeah, like
already.
I have several leftovers. Like I didn't have to buy them with BP.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And that's that's the other aspect of the game, which is of course kind of a tradition. At the end of the game, is you get access to the battle tower, or at least we have the past few games, where you get to farm BP and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty crazy. Um, then that kind of there's a whole bunch of other slew of items that are only available there, which kind of leads me to something that I had touched on earlier that I want to touch on now again is or maybe go into a little more detail this time is the whole the fact that you can change anything and everything about your Pokemon now in this game. Um, because they added the mints in this game, which is something that was new that we had never seen before. The mints that change the natures. So at first, when I kind of like when I got to the battle tower and I started seeing everything, at first I was kind of like I had a slight hesitation because I was like, oh, it's going against tradition and blah blah blah. But upon further thought, I was like, this is just really great. Like it might take a hell of a grind to kind of do this stuff, but like you can change anything. You can change with the mints. You can change natures. With the bottle caps, you can max IVs, which was a thing in the past. But I feel like the grind toward the bottle caps and toward level 100 is so much easier on this game than it ever was in the past. Primarily, I think because of the max raid battles and the fact that you're getting all those XP candies and
Hmm.
rare candies and other stuff like that. Like before in a game, like you would see like 10 or 12 rare candies in the entire game, like without hacking, obviously,
Yeah.
because those were like so. I mean, it's a rare candy for a reason, right? So, like, yeah, that was a big thing. And now in this game, it's like you can farm like with the appropriate time input, you can farm like limitless quantities of this stuff, which is in my opinion a great thing in one aspect. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong, I don't like the grind as any more than the next guy does, but the fact that the ability exists, that there is a way to do it if you put enough time in, is great to me. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. The experience candy that you get from the raid battles is a really good
It's
idea.
a game changer.
Especially
It is.
yeah, especially um even like just during the base game, like during story, like if you pick up a new Pokemon and you're like, oh, I want to use this, but it's like 20 levels under what I have already, just like fill it up with candy.
Yes.
And like I that's exactly what I did. And what you mentioned like with the bottle caps and the mints, like
Hmm.
changing the natures and the IVs and stuff like that, like I think that's a really good idea. I mean, in Gen 6 they really started to kind of began to streamline getting your Pokemon competitive
Competitive.
ready.
Yeah, they made
Yeah,
it a
with
little bit
the
easier.
what was it, like ultra training or whatever, super training
Yeah, yeah,
for like
yeah.
for the EVs.
Yep.
Yeah, like I think it's a good idea to have those options because not everybody likes to like breed over and over again.
And I am one of those
Um,
people, so I hear you there.
yeah, so if you don't like to breed and you prefer like battling or testing out different teams or Pokemon, you can just grind BP and do it that way. Or if you don't feel like doing that, then you always have the traditional option of breeding.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so options are always good. And yeah, having these options in terms of making competitive Pokemon is great to me. And I think another thing is, to your more casual players, like they might not even know like what's what as far as that goes. So it definitely makes it easier for people to get a handle on that kind of thing. People who might not
Mhm.
be like crazy bastards like me and like monitoring everything on the internet and like to know everything about competitive. So
Yeah, and then like keeping with that same idea, but also kind of going back a little bit, the options that we have in the game's menu
mhm.
to like access to the PC and also with the IV judge is like right there.
Yes, that is a big one. That's a game changer too. Like convenience, the more I think about it, the more we talk about it, convenience is just a huge thing in this game that,
Hmm.
I and a lot of this stuff, like, I didn't even think about. Like, you just think of, oh, you have to go here to check your IVs, but like,
Yeah.
no, you don't have to go here to check your IVs anymore. You can just do it whenever you want to do it, which
Yeah, or
is
like the move reminder.
every Poke
He's in
Center.
like every Poke Center. Yeah.
Oh, and I didn't even, I forgot about that. But yeah, the guy in every Poke Center, you can remember any move for free. No more heart scales. You can
Hmm.
remember anything you want for free. It's just convenience. Again, convenience is just massive in this game, more than I would have ever expected, to be honest with you. And I do love it. Like, as a competitive battler, I love the fact that it's so much more convenient to do these things than it ever was before.
Yeah, I think it's kind of underappreciated just how streamlined this game is, while not really sacrificing the one player aspect also, because like we talked about, it has a great story, great characters, but it's also very streamlined for the competitive player.
Absolutely, yes, and I think you're right. It is something that kind of goes unnoticed, I guess, on the surface, essentially, because to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff is stuff that I hadn't even fully considered until we're talking about it right now, and then when we're, hearing it and talking about it and thinking about it, I'm like, wow, this is just great that it's like this.
Hmm.
So, um, but yeah, I think that might be about all I have. I don't know if you have anything else you want to bring up, but I think I might have brought up everything that I want to talk about as far as the game goes, or any other little things about the game that stuck out to me.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I kind of went over all my complaints and all the things that I thought were really good about this game. Like I think this game is a really good game.
Yeah,
Um, like it's a really good Pokemon game, and for their well, not their first entry on the Switch, but their first like mainline entry on the Switch, I think they did a way better job than they did with the first entry on the 3DS.
yeah, I would agree with you there. And like I said, I was a fan of X and Y and Gen 6 myself, but I will say that honestly, this game overall, this game did kind of impress me. I have to say, which is not hard, or is hard, I should say, is hard to do when you're a critic and a cynic like me, and a bitter old Pokemon fan like me. It's hard to impress me with the new stuff, but this game, I have to say, I was skeptical at first, but this game, it really delivered, and I have to give credit where credit is due. This game 100% delivered in a lot of ways, and I have to say, if I were to rate this game on a letter grade, I would give it a solid B plus. Um, Maybe even an A minus, although it would be kind of teetering on the line between those two. So I'd say we'd give it, like, a score of like either a high, 80, like an 89 or something like that would be my personal score for the game.
All right, so I I would probably be considered a Gen 1
Mhm.
because yellow is my
Probably,
favorite.
probably.
Probably because yellow is my favorite game,
Yeah,
favorite Pokemon game. I've been playing since they came out in '98, and I wasn't really happy with Gen 6. I hated Gen 7. I barely played Gen 4, but uh, this game I would give it an A if it was
wow,
not for
the decks.
the lack of some Pokemon that I really like. So I would have to give it a B plus.
Yeah, I think we're kind of both on the same wavelength there. And you took the words right out of my mouth, actually, although I talk all the time, so that's not hard. Um, but yeah, the one drawback to me, my hesitation to give this game an A myself, is the Dex issue, which we spent a lot of
Hmm.
time talking about in the beginning. The fact that there's not enough, in my opinion, Pokemon, and that the quality control is not good. Like, the other little blips on the map are blips on the map, like with the storyline and the not being able to skip the Dynamax animation, and
Right.
the all that stuff that we talked about is just kind of like, you know little bumps along the way. But the big issue, I think, for both of us, that is why this game would not get an A from either of us, is the Dex issue, with, A, not enough Pokemon, and B, the quality control of the Pokemon in the Dex. So yeah, but this game is definitely a solid B plus in my mind as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's
If they give us Psyduck DLC, then I'll give it an A.
I was gonna say if they. So I know this is not possible, but I would say that what would bump this game to an A for me is if they deleted Garbodor out of the data and they added Scissor. Then I would be like, okay, I'll go
like
the
like
extra mile.
at the very least, if they replaced Swoobat with Zubat.
Yeah, that would be something. Oh, I didn't even mention actually as kind of a little negative about this game. Um, we got a Gigantamax form of Garbodor in this game, actually, which
Oh
is actually
yeah,
a
I
really
forgot
I
about that.
forgot about it because it was so like disgusting to me when I saw it. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see this, and then I didn't think about it after that. But like the fact that not only is this stupid Pokemon in this game over stuff like Alakazam and Scissor, now you give it a Gigantamax form too, where by the way, the Gigantamax form it just looks like a bigger, uglier pile of trash than it already does.
Yeah,
So it's like what
like
the
it's the same thing, but with just bigger trash in it.
it's the same but worse is what it is. So yeah, so that's a knock. So yeah, if they deleted Garbodor from the game data, I would and replaced it with something I love like Scissor. Yeah, that well, I know we didn't talk about it too much, but the omission I guess we touched on a little bit. The omission of Mega Evolution is kind of another negative, although I feel like as you know, Z crystals. Well, as a side note to my side note, the omission of Z crystals as well is something that like I could take or leave because I wasn't like super enamored with Z moves to begin with.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't really care about him.
but the omission of Mega Evolutions was initially kind of a larger negative for me, and then now that I'm kind of getting used to not having the Mega Evolutions, I'm just the more I think about it, the more I think like yeah, Mega Evolutions were kind of living on borrowed time anyway because I don't think they were even supposed to be in Gen 7 anyway. They were supposed to just be a Gen 6 gimmick, but everybody liked them so much that they brought them to Gen 7, and then we got canned on Gen 8, but like at the end of the day, I feel like that should be a kind of expected in a sense. Like we probably shouldn't
Yeah,
have been expecting to keep that stuff, so I can't be too hard on the game for not keeping it.
like I definitely understand that they're going like adding different gimmicks for each generation and each region,
Hmm.
but at the same time, if you're going to add like such a big feature to the gameplay, because the Pokemon games aren't just you know a single player adventure. Like
Hmm.
there's a completely different competitive battling aspect to it, and if you're going to add something like that to the game, like it should be a
Stick
mechanic
in.
from there on. You
I
know what I
agree
mean?
with you 100. As that competitive battler guy, I agree with you 100%, and that's why I was initially so devastated about the removal of Mega Evolutions because it's not an understatement to say that when they brought Mega Evolution in Gen 6, it completely changed the competitive scene, like turned it upside down.
Yeah, that's like after Gen 3 if they just drop natures
Yeah, exactly.
and
Well, maybe not
abilities.
that big, but I get I agree with the train of thought that you're on.
Yeah.
Definitely. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, like it's not that big a deal, but you
yeah,
know,
it wouldn't be quite as big of a
comparatively.
deal as if dropping natures, but it's kind of in the same vein of the sense that it's a mechanic in the game that forever changed the game, and then you're just going to rip it out. So yeah, but
Right.
but like I said, I can't be too mad about it, in hindsight, just because of the fact that, like I said, it was living on borrowed time anyway. So
Yeah, I understand why they did it. I just don't like it.
yeah, I can agree with that definitely, and that's kind of like a lot of the little things. I think a lot of the little grievances we have with the game, you can kind of be like, okay, I understand why they did that, even though I didn't like it,
Right.
and I think that's
Hmm.
why the Dex is probably the biggest sticking point for both of us, is because we don't understand why they did it and we don't like it. Like we don't understand why Bisharna is in the game and not Alakazam.
Right.
We
Yeah.
don't understand why Garbodor is in the game and not Scissor.
Hmm.
So because there's no reason, in my personal opinion, there's other than the fact that they in some way shape or form wanted to omit those Pokemon and wanted to promote the newer Pokemon. Other than that, there's no good reason, in my opinion, for why decisions like that were made. But despite that, I think it honestly, I think it says a lot coming from the both of us who are like we said, bitter and stubborn old Pokemon fans. I think it says a lot about this game that two guys like us are willing to speak so highly of this game despite the negative things we have to say about it. So,
Yeah.
um, But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say in closing. In closing, I would just say the game impressed me. The game surprised me. I was happy with it. There were issues, but most of them were passable issues aside from the decks, and that's why I give it that solid B plus as far as a rating goes.
Yeah. My final thoughts is it's good. If you haven't played it yet, play it and check me out at youtube.com/crashlow gaming.
Yes, the plugs are coming. So, yes, thanks for watching again, everybody. Well, we've been like plugging this entire podcast, but that's all good. It is part of the way the wheel turns. But thanks for watching again, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed. Please hit that like button, leave a comment, and/or subscribe if you did enjoy. Stay tuned for more new videos in the future. I am in full swing with my Sword and Shield Wi-Fi battle series, so definitely check that out if you're into competitive battling, which you probably wouldn't be watching this video if you weren't, because it's going to be on my channel. But also, I want to say a big thank you to CrashLove37 from CrashLove Gaming for joining me here to discuss everything, and of course, I'm going to leave the link to his channel in the description so you can check him out. He does everything on his channel, not just Pokemon, actually mostly not Pokemon, but tons of stuff with different games, reviews, and gameplay, and all that great stuff. So make sure you check him out. So
All right. Thanks for having me.
no problem, anytime, man. So that is it, and we'll see you next time.